Good evening. Time being 7 o'clock. 4 members of the present board, the planning board being present. We're waiting for Steve Johnson to arrive. He's on his way. He should be here shortly. So we'll get this meeting started. I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is agenda item A, approval of minutes for November 17th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from November 17th, 2025.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Vice Chair votes aye as well, so minutes are approved. Moving on to agenda item B, committee reports. Anybody have any committee reports they want to speak about tonight?
NIMCOG is meeting tomorrow night, so maybe for next month.
Okay. Stuff you all set?
That's
Okay,
everything.
all right.
Yeah, thank
Moving on to next item, town planners report. Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Fratellia. First item of note, we have 2 new filings for the January 12th, 2026 Planning Board meeting, 2 family suite special permits, one for 54 Charles Drive, the other for 100 Jenny's Way. Next item of note, the Tewksbury Community Market will continue its indoor winter market at the Senior Center this Thursday, December 18th. The market will run from 4 to 7 p.m. and will feature many of the same vendors as the summer market, with the addition of our Girl Scout troop selling their cookies. If you have any questions or looking for more information, you can visit tewksburymarket.com. Last item of note, which you folks may want to table until Mr. Johnson gets here, or, take it up yourselves, but currently, as a part of the planning board filing fees, there is a $1 postage charge because we do the mailings for the legal notices on the front end of the application, and then another notice once the decision is filed on the back end. Now, back when I first started doing those mailings in-house, the postcards postage was 36 cents per unit, and the labels and the postcards that we were using for those mailings were half the price. It's been about 4 years since we implemented that, and just for a little bit of background, we used to have applicants send out the mailings on their own, and they were certified mail. But we found that because that was not required by statute and it wasn't making it any more or less likely that folks were receiving the notices, that we would make it less expensive and less time consuming for applicants and take it in-house. And since that time, the costs to do these mailings has gone up exponentially. So just looking to get the board's feedback on bringing the postage charge up to $2 per abutter to accommodate the 2 mailings, which are now 61 cents each way, plus the cost of the supplies to do so.
Okay. How about some feedback from our board members about the increase in price? Mr. Camper?
Seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, it's not like, we're funding the town off of our postage. We're just trying to not lose money while serving the town of Tewksbury and its residents. So I think makes sense, and I would be in favor of it.
Okay.
Same here, Mr. Chairman.
Same.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay, I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
So do we send out postcards now still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because we used to send letters, didn't we, at one point?
So originally, when I started in the position back in 2019, the applicants were responsible for their mailings,
Okay.
and they were doing it by certified mail for each unit.
remember that, yeah.
And that was something that a lot of towns adopted to ensure that the notices got to the abutters. But we were finding that they were not any more or less likely to get there with the certified tag on there, and that was about a $9 charge to do. So instead, we took the mailings in-house and run them through our postage meter, because that's more efficient, and the postcards cost less than even a traditional stamp.
Right.
So that was a cost-saving measure, a time-saving measure, making it a little easier for applicants. And we've had this $1 postage fee in place since, I think, the end of 2020 or early 2021. And now it's just, as Mr. Ciampa indicated, we don't want to lose money, as we probably currently are doing the mailings.
Right, I agree. So I'm all in favor of increasing the fee. Just
We need a second, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair?
I just want to finish my comment if I
Oh,
could.
sorry.
So I was all in favor of increasing the fee as well. So with that, I'll accept Mr. Duffy's motion and a second from Mr. Ciampa. All in favor?
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye as well, so motion approved.
Appreciate it.
I thought you said all in favor. I thought you were moving us right to the vote. Sorry about that.
No. Steve? Ladies? So we'll move on to agenda item C. Let Mr. Johnson get situated. 111 Rockville Road, Family Suite Special Permit. Anybody here for that? Want to come up to the table and take your name and address for the record, and the floor will be yours.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice Chair, you folks will have to waive the reading of the public hearing.
That's what, that's the, so I'll take a motion to waive the reading of the public.
So moved.
hearing. Okay.
Second.
Okay, great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Good, great. All right.
Excuse me, sir, if you could just turn on the microphone. Thank you.
There we go. Richard Dwyer, 111 Rockville Road.
And what are you trying to do?
There was an addition put on the house back in the year 2000. Just want to add a sink and a stove, want to make it an in-law suite. It was actually built like that.
Okay,
Everything's already interconnected and everything.
all right. I see you've submitted a set of plans, so,
Yep,
anything else?
that's it.
No? Okay. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just, the standard question that we ask is the house is connected to sewerage, I assume, right?
The house is not, I have the septic system there. I'm not adding any bedrooms.
Okay. I'm not quite sure how that works then, because maybe you could give me a clarification on
Sure,
that.
Mr. Duffy. So per section 7.1
I saw
of the
that
zoning
on it. It
bylaw.
has to be done onto the
Yeah,
town
once it
sewer?
becomes a family suite codified, it will have to tie into town sewer.
Okay, when you tie into the town sewer, that can be put on and paid over years, like in other towns?
You'll have to work that out with the DPW.
Okay.
That's part of our requirement.
Yeah, I figured that. I'm a builder anyway, so I knew that was coming, so
Okay.
no surprise.
Okay. No, it looks like that, so you already have that space is already finished in there above the garage there?
Yeah, everything's done. When I bought the house, when ADUs were made legal, I called a plumber over, give me a price on, just doing the rough, so I basically have numbers before I came here. And there was a screw inside the wall, so the previous owner threw that stuff in already, so I got to open up the wall and have it all inspected. But
Okay.
everything else meets all building codes. Like I said, I've been doing it for, 40 years, so.
Okay. And I
But I knew that-
noticed that so each side already has a back porch too, I noticed, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So one
Good.
question I do have is there's actually an entrance on each floor. And since I have to do the tie into the town sewer, as I understand that the ADUs, you only need one?
So just to make the distinction, it's not an ADU, it's a family suite.
Yeah, yes, family suite, yeah.
There has to be a connection free-flowing to the house, there has to be a common entrance, and then it is allowed to have its own separate egress as long as it's not a front door. But that's stuff that the building commissioner will be able to
Okay.
advise you on.
Okay, I already talked to you. Okay, good.
That's it? Okay. Mr. Champa?
As has already pretty much come true, as far as what I felt was within our purview, I thought the plan was fine. I think there's some things to work out with the building department. We already asked about town sewers, so I have nothing else.
Okay. Mr. Fisher?
I don't have anything at this moment.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions, and one is, how many square feet for the unit?
The unit's 936 or 938 off the top of my head.
I did see that in the plans, I just want to make sure that we're
Yeah.
all on the same page, and you're
Yeah.
going to make it public for everybody else to know.
Yes.
So it's under 1,000 square feet,
Yep.
so, plans look great, and I'm all set with that. So with that, anybody in the public have any questions, comments, or concerns about 111 Rockville Road? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, with regarding to the Family Suite special permit,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the family suite special permit at 111 Rockville Road.
all right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Vice Chair votes aye as well. We're all set, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good night. Great to be first. Have a good night.
all right, thank you, good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Fattalia. Appreciate it. Sorry for my tardiness. So we're moving on to Agenda Item D, 960 Main Street. This is a special permit. I have a motion to waive the public reading.
So moved.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
All those opposed? Motion carries. Gentlemen, if you just give your names for the record, the floor will be yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, David Plunkett, representing the applicant, the owner of the premises at 960 Main Street. With me at the table is Mr. John Sullivan, who is the principal of 960 Main Street Development LLC, being the applicant before the board tonight.
I'm John D. Sullivan.
Floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the property that's been developed right on Main Street, right across from City Hall. I'm sure, very well aware of it. Very nice job that's been done there. When we got the initial approvals, it was to fit in with the Foster School development, and so you have a unified look at the premises. The property has been marketed. The property for 2 straight years has gone through a couple of commercial brokers, and there is just no market for commercial development at that location. The town, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the production of residential housing is certainly a top priority. And under the bylaw, under the special permit that's allowed by the zoning bylaw, would allow there to be a conversion of this commercial space to residential use. And it would be, as specified in the bylaw, affordable housing units. So this would be something that was envisioned by the passing of this bylaw, to take this developed area and, the money that's been put into the building of the Route 38 corridor. There's been a lot of very nice structures, high, quality development along the site, but if it can't be used and there's a need for residential development, and allows also to add to the town's affordable housing stock, this fits in exactly with the purpose and intent of that bylaw, and we would request that the board look favorably upon the proposal submitted before you tonight.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fuchsia?
I don't have anything right now, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Champa?
I'm in agreement with the applicant. We passed a bylaw in town specifically so we could fill these empty spaces with affordable housing, and these plans look like it's going to do that quite well. So I have no issues and no questions.
All right. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm also in favor of that as well. Just one quick question. I noticed that the back building had one handicap space, but I didn't notice any handicap spaces on the front building. Is that a sign that was there at one time, maybe, that might be missing?
No, they're we do have handicap spots in the front building.
So that's it, there's just a one spot in the front?
No, we have 2 in the front, and we just moved the sign I think you're talking about. We moved it because it was easier for the person who's using it.
Yeah.
For access, they go through my common area.
Okay, so you have 2 spots.
We have 3.
Great, better, even better. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Fratelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've reviewed the application and understand the conditions, and I was here when we approved the initial plan to develop the site with the intention of making 2 units commercial, and I think you're the second building owner that's come in to change their commercial units to residential, so I'm all in favor of that. Place looks great. So how is the occupancy there, Mr. Sullivan, at 960?
We're 100% occupied.
Underpied. So 2 more units coming up for affordable purposes only, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good.
There's great demand for the residential, but there's, unfortunately, one of the after effects of COVID is commercial activity just never came back. People got used to buying online and Amazon and everything else. There's just, it's just not there.
Different,
Yeah.
yep. So with that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Yeah, I'm pretty much all set too. This seems to be exactly what seemed to be envisioned when we put the bylaw, well, when the bylaw was passed. It's an existing building. It's really just a conversion. We get many comments on empty spaces and, you know, when are they going to get filled? And obviously, this is part of the answer to that. You know, the demand is reduced because a lot of people are working from home still, or, you know, different type of spaces. And like you said, the affordable is sort of the key point to this. If it was just creating more space to create more space, maybe not, but when they're limited to being affordable units, that's helpful to more people. So with that, I'm all set. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns on this? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board at this time?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. As to the special permit request.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit for 960 Main Street.
Second?
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Moving on to agenda item E, 15 and 41 Astor Street. This is continued from our 11/17 meeting.
Board's here. Sorry about that.
All right, gentlemen, once you're settled, if you give your names to the record, the floor will be yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, David Plunkett, representing the applicant in the matter before the board tonight. With me at the table is Matt Hammer of Landplex, the site engineer. Also with us in the audience is Kim Hadavadian, who is the traffic engineer on the site. Mr. Chairman, I think the primary goal tonight is with both the peer review analysis, the engineer for the town, and our traffic engineer in the audience, is to review what we received under the peer review and basically looking for direction from the town, just in the sense that there were points within the report that brought up some major changes relative to the design of the site as we have been proceeding. And that primarily relates to the use of Astor Street as an access to and from the site. So, you know,
So what I'm going to do is, since we have him, I think we're going to start sort of reverse order. We'll let our peer reviewer just discuss his findings, and then we'll go the other way around, because I think it makes more sense to people if we do it that way.
that'd be great.
All right, so first, if you just introduce yourself.
Yep, absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm the managing partner with Vanessa and Associates, and we are the town's peer review consultant relative to traffic.
Okay, so for everybody in the audience, just for clarification purposes, that's who works for us, that's who works for you, okay, for the town. They have their folks, or their person out in the audience. This is the person who reviews it for the board, on behalf of the town, and on behalf of you, to give us a report so we understand what the traffic study information that we receive says, gives us recommendations for things maybe we shouldn't do, et cetera, et cetera. All right? So just so we know who all the players are. So if you wouldn't mind going over your findings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, again. So we've, on behalf of the town, we've undertaken an analysis of the applicant's transportation impact assessment that was prepared in September of this year, as well as the site plans that were prepared for the development itself. And we've issued a review letter that summarizes the findings of our evaluation. That letter's dated December 1st. And as you look through the letter, you'll see it's broken up into two pieces. The first is looking at the applicant's transportation analysis, and the second thing is the site plan related comments. So I'll start with our comments relative to the transportation assessment. Our role as the peer reviewer as it looks at the transportation assessment is first to make sure it's prepared in accordance with industry standards. The project's located along Main Street, Route 38, which is a state highway under MassDOT jurisdiction. The standards that are followed in preparing the transportation assessment are set by the Department of Transportation. So there's specific criteria they need to follow, both in the data collection, but also in the analysis that they look at as they relate to the access of the project, but the impacts of the project. As the board is aware, and I think was mentioned earlier this evening, infrastructure improvements along Main Street, specifically in this area, there's been some reconstruction of the traffic signal systems, and I think as it relates to those systems, there's been installed what's known as an adaptive traffic control system. So those of you that are familiar with the way that traffic flows along Route 38, that has resulted in actually a significant improvement in traffic flow, especially as it relates to the area where the project site is located. That queuing that would happen from the signal that went back towards the Walmart driveway has kind of been alleviated to some extent during some time periods of the day. So there's some evidence of those improvements. As we're looking at this project, obviously what we want to make sure of is that the benefit that's gained from those improvements isn't degraded as a result of the project at this location. So we've looked at that as it relates to the impact analysis, and have some comments as well as some suggestions as the board is considering the project. So in going through the applicant's materials, I think one of the things that's been presented to the board is that the site has an issued driveway permit from the Department of Transportation. We've asked that an update be provided to the board as it relates to that driveway permit. The permit, as was included in the application, was expired, and so it's quite dated, and it also, there's no way for us to tell in looking at the permit how it relates to the project that's before you. So we want to have an understanding if the permit has been updated, and then if the permit is in fact valid for the project. So we want to make sure that that's fact in place if that's being represented to you, that there is a permit for the project, because the one that was provided with the application is expired, and it just says it's a driveway permit to a residential project, which really doesn't tell us. It typically says the number of units, the type of units, or if there's commercial space, what commercial space is there. So we want to make sure the permit relates to the project. And the second thing in looking at the transportation analysis, this is not a high traffic generator, being age qualified or age restricted development. It doesn't generate a lot of peak hour trips, which would be different than a conventional project with not with an age qualification on it. So even with that being the condition that we have here, the project site is located between two signalized intersections, and they only analyzed one of those signalized intersections. So really, we need to understand the dynamic of flow between the Walmart driveway and the driveway down with Old Main Street and Asphalt Street to see how that traffic flow dynamic works. It's important in this case in particular because we have a lane drop taking place heading southbound on Main Street, and that has a direct relationship to the driveway here. So we've asked that they include the Walmart driveway as a part of that analysis, and also as we look at the improvements that the state has undertaken, those signals are coordinated with each other. So they pass traffic from one intersection to the next. So that passing of traffic needs to be understood as well. So you typically would look at the signalized intersections on either side. So we've asked the applicant to undertake that as a part of their analysis. The other thing that we noted was that the traffic counts were done after schools let out. So they were done at the end of June. So it's a time period when we look at the historic traffic count data on Main Street. The counts are higher during months when schools are in session than when schools are not in session. So we've asked the applicant to provide some information as it relates to that dynamic, if there's a significance in terms of the change in the volumes between when schools are in session and when they're not in session. Importantly, as we're looking at the site itself, and again, really focusing on the driveway, the intersection of Main Street with Astle Street, Pike Street, and Veranda Road, and Old Main Street is a high crash location. It's actually listed as the number 40 out of 100 top high crash locations in the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments area. Again, that's important as we're looking at, not so much the intersection important in looking at that, but the driveway, because we're introducing a driveway within proximity of a high crash location. So we certainly don't want to have a condition as it relates to looking at a new access point that's going to exacerbate what is a known high crash intersection. That intersection has had what's known as a road safety audit conducted. The town participated in that. The purpose of that road safety audit was to identify safety enhancements that could be undertaken at that intersection. So we've asked the applicant to look at that road safety audit. It's available, and then they can go to the intersection and look at and see what has been implemented out of the series of recommendations. So then we can then understand, are there things that still need to be done at that intersection that have not yet been done? Because again, it being a high crash location in close proximity to the driveway, it's important that we understand if the improvements have actually, if they were done as a part of the state project, or if there's any lingering things that need to be done at the intersection. We also have comments on some of the traffic volume networks that are in the traffic study. So as the applicants undertaken their analysis, they perform what's known as a traffic operations analysis so that we can understand what is the impact of this project on motorist delays and vehicle queuing at the intersections that they evaluated. We did identify that there's some discrepancies in the traffic numbers that need to be resolved. So even though I've looked at the analysis, those corrections need to be undertaken so that we can then understand what is the net impact of this project, how many additional vehicles are queuing at intersections, and what is the increase in wait times at those intersections. So until those corrections have been made, we really don't understand that at this point. So we've asked that they undertake those corrections. Pending that information, we have provided some suggestions for recommendations dealing with, first is safety, looking at the intersection that's a high crash location, making some recommendations to the extent that there are improvements that still need to be done at that intersection that have not been done. The site access, this is probably the most significant comment that we have, and again, goes back to the attorneys mentioned in rethinking of the project. So as I mentioned, where this driveway is located, as the board is probably very familiar with, is where a lane drop is taking place. So we have 2 lanes heading southbound from the Walmart signal, and then that traffic is merging into a single travel lane as it goes right by the driveway. Going in the other direction, in the northbound direction, we have 2 travel lanes coming from the traffic signal heading towards the Walmart driveway. So there's a lot going on in this short section of road, and as you're thinking as a motorist who's traveling southbound, you are really watching the vehicle that's next to you to see what your merging ability is. And if you think about adding a driveway in the midst of all of that, that motorist or you as a motorist are not expecting a left turn movement to come across you to go into a driveway or to come out of that driveway to go in the other direction. So the introduction of a driveway at this location opposite the Waffle House adds another dynamic that really complicates the flow of traffic along the roadway, but I would more look at it from a safety perspective. It's that it's not desirable to introduce another conflict point when we're having merging traffic, because again, it's a lot for a motorist to process along this section of road. So what we've said is that to the extent that a driveway permit is not in force for this location, for this project, that we would suggest consideration of possibly having the driveway be restricted to right in, right out only, and that the driveway that goes out to Astle Street be considered as let's say, a right in, left out only, so that we would minimize any traffic that's heading in the other direction. What that does is it gives benefit of those left turn movements happening at a signalized intersection rather than having them happen at the unsignalized intersection where we have a lane drop and other things taking place. The applicant has documented as a part of their analysis that vehicles are going about 40 miles an hour at that section of road. So again, we're thinking about, as you're a motorist, making a left turn going into the driveway or coming out, you're crossing at least 2 lanes of traffic in order to make either one of those maneuvers. So again, not desirable, and we have an opportunity to do it at a signalized intersection. So in looking at it, that's where you'd rather have those left turn movements take place. So we've asked that to be investigated by the applicant as a potential modification to the site plan as well as to the driveway configuration. Lastly, as it relates to the suggested improvements is implementation of a transportation demand management program. There's bus service, as you know, along Main Street at that area. There's bus stop across from the Waffle House. So there's opportunities to have residents be able to connect to the bus service. So the transportation demand management program is about making sure that the residents are aware of that service, making sure it's safe to walk down to the bus stop there and get back into the project site, as well as some other things really geared towards reducing automobile trips. Lastly, in looking at the project, to the extent that there's a driveway approved at this location, I think it's very important that there be a follow-up monitoring program, which we call a post-occupancy monitoring. The key thing in that is really to make sure that we don't have an increase in incidents of crashes happening as a result of the addition of a driveway here. And I think that's very important to the extent of any configuration of the driveway at this location. We just really want to make sure that it continues to function in a safe manner. Our next set of comments deal with the site plan itself, and we've just asked for a couple of things as it relates to reviewing circulation within the site. The first is to the extent that the applicant has not provided the vehicle turning analysis for the fire truck as well as for trash, recycling, moving vans, that they undertake that analysis so we can see that the circulation works within the project site. We have some recommendations for signs and pavement markings within the development. Sight lines exiting the development far exceed actually what's required for a 40-mile-an-hour approach speed. Set back quite far from the edge of the roadway. Nice generous sidewalk, so the sight lines, if you're coming out looking to the left or right on Main Street, are more than sufficient for what's required. Lastly, as it relates to the site plan, if you look at the end of any of the drive aisles that have parking, there's a small area that's an indentation for vehicle maneuvering. We've asked that that actually be increased in depth. It typically should be the same depth as the width of a parking space so that you can actually get the car out and back into it and then make a 3-point maneuver. So we've asked that they look at making some modifications to those drive aisles. So that concludes our review of the materials. As I said, the most significant is comments really deal with that access onto Main Street. First is looking at the existing permit that was issued, whether it's expired or not, and to the extent that it's not been, if it's not expired, to make sure that it applies to the project that's before you. And then we have some cleanup items as it relates to the traffic study. But I think the access is probably the most important comment that we have. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, to answer any questions.
All right, so why don't we do this just so we don't lose track of it? We'll go around the board once, see if they have any questions for our peer reviewer first, then we'll open up to them on anything he just went over, not trying to get a back and forth answer, just anything that he just went over. So, Mr. Fuchsia, any questions?
I don't have any questions right now. It all made perfect sense of what he had to say.
Okay. Mr. Duffy?
One of your recommendations was for a bus shelter. Now, I might ask the applicant if there was any plan to deal with the LRTA and create some sort of a bus shelter.
That's what I wanted to, just anything.
So
So if you have a question about the recommendation, yes, but if it's going out here, I'd rather let that wait until after they've commented.
Where on the plan would a likely bus shelter go?
So more than likely, it would be on their side of the property, depending on where the right-of-way line is. It would either be within the state highway right-of-way or cut back into toward their property, but it should be right on Main Street and visible. So on the back of sidewalk, essentially.
Okay. Okay, so the reason that I'm asking that question is that my understanding is that there was a plan for a massive retaining wall that's basically going to be abutting the sidewalk going down Main Street, so I can't really envision a bus stop shelter unless it's built into the wall in some way, the wall itself is another whole issue for later on down the road, in my opinion, but I was just thinking of that one piece. And then as far as the post-occupancy monitoring and so forth, good idea, but how would the town enforce something like that?
So the post-occupancy monitoring would require that the applicant report back to the town, and we've kind of laid out what the requirements would be. The key part of it is that as a part of the monitoring, you would say that to the extent that there's some exceedance, there's crashes that are happening that are directly related to the driveway, they're producing more traffic than it was predicted in their traffic study, that there's corrective actions, and those corrective actions are also defined. It helps the town from the standpoint of understanding, okay, we're not just getting information, but there's also something where there's corrective actions that the applicant agrees to undertake to the extent that there's exceedances. But the applicant is also aware that if there's exceedances, these are the potential liabilities that they would have. Signs, pavement markings, it can be some simple things and nothing that has to be really onerous. But I think from the applicant's perspective, they can monetize it so they can understand what those potential costs might be.
Okay, and then back on one of your other comments, T4, when we were talking about, I think we discussed this at their last meeting, was the fact that some of the testing was conducted on days where they're, basically a slow traffic day. They, call it what you want, but that's what it was. So, I understand they want to put the best face on that, and I get that. But the fact of the matter is that the traffic on June 25th is not the same as September 25th. Right. And I think that we should be certain that if they are going to provide us with a new set of numbers on that maybe they might want to let us know what those dates are so that we can kind of be in agreement on that.
No, agreed. There's certainly historical information as well. And that's kind of what we had looked at is the data that's available for Main Street. And it does show that traffic volumes are lower during that time period than they are at other times of the year. So to your point, getting some agreement on this is an acceptable time to collect the data, or them going back and look at that historic information would be helpful.
Okay. And then really we're just kind of throwing the expired permit issue back at them to provide us with some clarity on that. Is that your suggestion?
We want some explanation as it relates to that. Maybe the applicant has that, but we were just acknowledging the fact that the permit that was provided as a part of the application is expired and would need evidence of what is the status of that.
Sure, understood. Okay, I think that's all I have for now. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Champlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dirk, do you have any experience with Mass DOT permitting for driveways and access and things like that?
It's a significant experience, yes.
Okay, so if a permit is at the 25% process, is it a done deal at that point?
At the 25% design process stage, to the extent that that's where they're at, it is still subject to comments. And so you've submitted your driveway permit application. That's the first level that they comment on. So they start to provide comments on that. It's really when you get to the 75% design level that kind of the parameters have been fixed because you've addressed the comments as a part of the initial. It's essentially an more educated concept plan is what goes in. So it's what you're asking for. And then they're going to comment on that 25% design.
Okay. Have you ever in your experience seen a 6-way intersection turned into a 7-way intersection and said that was an improvement in the area?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I think that's all I need to say, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions for you, Mr. Dirk. Thank you very much for a great analysis.
Thank you.
It was a lot easier reading some of that stuff you presented to us. Thank you very much. So you mentioned about the number 40 as far as crash, right, in the NEMCOG area.
Yes.
So how many towns, for the public, how many towns include NEMCOG in that analysis?
Geez, 9, including Lowell. Yeah.
9, right? 9, okay, so it's not a good site, I think, for traffic.
Correct, 40 out of 100, with consideration of all of the intersections within those 9 communities, right.
And now we want to add 90 units to that mix, which was the proposal that they submitted for the driveway, 90 units. And I believe the permit that they proposed has expired and has not been approved yet, from what my understanding.
That's my understanding as well. We've asked the applicant to clarify that.
Yeah, so I had a laugh at one of your comments, how you said that when you get to the driveway at Walmart and the 2-lane highway, that it becomes a raceway to see who can get to that 1 lane as fast as they possibly can. I don't know about you, I travel that road all the time, 2 or 3 times a day, and I am sitting at that light, looking at the guy next to me, seeing if he's going to gas it, what kind of car he has, and if my car is going to beat him to that light. So it's that crazy. It is. And if you guys know it, you drive it all the time, some of your neighbors, it's just like that, you know? So the other thing that you brought up was the use of Astle Street as an exit from the site. And I thought we discussed it as a board member that we did not want that to happen, because the residents of Astle Street have told us that it's a nightmare now getting off of Astle Street when you get to Pike to get out, you know, so, and they didn't want that access road, which is why we left it only as emergency vehicles only. So I would like to keep that as is, myself personally, and how my other board members think about it, but I don't want to see Astle Street being an exit for this project. They should use that exit on Main Street and Main Street only, so, my opinion, you know, so, with that, I'm all set right now, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right. I kind of appreciate your sort of American Graffiti-like reference. That was kind of funny, actually. So they've hit on most of the stuff. The one, I guess I'd hit on just again, the post-occupancy monitoring, just in this case, it only concerns me because I know we've done it before, but this feels like the kind of thing with, once this is there, if it ends up there, the post-monitoring here is way harder because, one, you're dealing with Mass DOT, so you got to go back and get OKs. So if they're monitoring things that we want to put in place to say, oh, if this happens, we're expecting you to do this, is that something you can get, and I'm asking you just from your experience, is that something you can ask for in advance with Mass DOT when you're doing your stuff, saying, hey, we know this may happen, if this happens, we're being asked by the town to do X, can you okay this now in the event it becomes necessary? Is that a thing?
It is, and I think this gets to, you know, a couple of things. The first, I would say, one of the reasons why I was asking the applicant about the permit is because, you know, my experience, MassDOT does not issue driveway permits for projects that have not been approved by the town. In fact, even if I were to submit a driveway permit, they will not issue it until they have the conditions of approval from the town. For that reason, because when they issue the permit, they want to understand the conditions the town has placed on the project, because the permit that gets issued is supposed to incorporate not only the MassDOT requirements, but anything the town wants. So if the town were to say, we want the driveway right in, right out, or added the bus stop, or something like that, when they issue their permit, they're going to incorporate that, because they're granting the applicant access to the state highway to construct improvements within the state layout. That includes MassDOT requirements, but also local requirements, and they issue it once. So the fact that what is being represented is there's a permit for a project, this location didn't make a lot of sense to me, only because the town hasn't approved it. If there were a permit issued, and the town, it would be for a project that the town hasn't yet approved for that project, or approved as an older site plan approval, which is not what's before MassDOT. They would then need a new permit relating to this development that's before you. So that gets to your real question, which is, because of the fact that the permit is not issued until the town has issued its approval, the conditions, if you put a condition as to post-occupancy monitoring and conditions as it relate to what might change to the extent there's some exceedances of these, that's going to be incorporated into the permit. But that's why they really don't, they need feedback from the town. And again, the experience that I have is they will not issue a permit until this board is acted and there's conditions. The applicant's required to submit those conditions to MassDOT as a condition of the issuance of the permit.
I mean, I guess, I know, I appreciate it, but I guess what I'm also getting at is the kind of things that I'm sort of envisioning, you know, say, as to Mr. Fatalia's point, if we were to leave things as they are, Astor Street is emergency only,
Right.
and and then you see increased accidents
Right.
because cars are coming out and going left, in your head explanation, or fix for that is make it right turn only.
Right.
Which now reactivates, the only other way to get out is the Astor Street. So, I mean, it's a huge, to most of the folks on here, that's a huge change to
Right.
put in as a maybe down the road if it turns out that there's all these accidents or problems, traffic, accidents, any of those things that you might see in the monitoring as popping up. The fix to that, to me, where it is not signage, it's not, there's no rumble strip you can put in, there's no signaling that I think anyone is going to ever put in right there,
Correct.
or anything like that, 'cause you're going to drop a signal right between two signals. That wouldn't make any sense. So to me, the only real fix, if it turns out that there are more problems than envisioned, is something that restricts how you're coming out of there. Well, if no left turns are allowed, period, out of there, then you have to come out and go right always. And you still don't want Astor Street to be, you know, activated as a way in and out. It's kind of a big deal. You know what I mean? If all of a sudden it goes from a two-way out to a single way out, that means every single car that comes out of there has to go right. That is not how this was envisioned and checked to see what that's going to do with the light. And then where are those cars going? Because they want to go to 495, or they want to go to Lowell, whatever it is, and they're forced to come out right. They come up to that signal, what are they doing? Are they doing the left and swinging around through Pinatas and up and around and out past the the waffle place? Are they going in, are they going to loop around in the gas station, or 99, or whatever it is, or, you know, it's Wamisit, I don't know, I'm just saying, or they're going up to Astor Street anyways, they're just going to be going the other direction now,
Right.
and jacking up, or Pike, and that, we don't have that as an actual measurement in this. So if we were going to make that a condition, if we got to that point and we were going to put in this monitoring, and those are the possibilities that could happen, would I be wrong in thinking that we would need to know what that would do now?
So the project as proposed is not a large traffic generator. So from to the point that if it were a right-in, right-out driveway, as it relates to the signalized intersection, it's probably not going to have a significant impact in terms of how it operates, just given the fact that it's an age-qualified community. So I think as I'm going through the recommendations and thinking about, you know, the comments as it relates to the access, but also the monitoring, the reason that I suggested the monitoring was to the extent that the board was going to grant a full access driveway on Main Street. I'm concerned about that. And so the mechanism really is about, okay, to the extent that that's the way that the access is configured, wanting to make sure that the town has some feedback and corrective actions to the extent that there are crashes happening. So now what do we do? This is really about, you know, protecting the town as it relates to, and the residents of this project, as providing an alternative to the extent that there is a problem there. So that's really, if to the extent that they had the access and left turns could happen, if the signal was a right-in, right-out driveway, I probably wouldn't even have a traffic monitoring other than to suggest that it's really just to make sure that they're generating trips that were in proportion to what they had estimated in the traffic study. It's really about left turn movements at the Main Street driveway. There's a lot going on at that exact location that in my mind, with 40-mile-an-hour traffic and merging happening, not only merging in the southbound direction, but in the northbound direction, because the lane closest to the center line is a left through, you do see people, if someone's making the left and they clear the signal, that they go right by there going up to Walmart at a high rate of speed going through there, and that's actually shown as a part of the analysis. There's just a lot going on at that area that if we're allowing left turns, and to the extent that we're not going to have traffic coming out the other driveway, this is to provide some protection so that you have that ability of, you know, you told us it was going to operate fine, there's an issue. So how do we, you know, to your point of how do we correct it and make sure that the town has the ability to correct it even with MassDOT? And it's really about trying to construct that.
But I understand, like, when you said that, it's not a huge traffic generator. I know, we go over these numbers all the time, what the numbers say versus what we think in our heads of what goes on during the day. Bad is bad, and if you're only adding a few cars to it, it's still bad. It's just bad by a few more cars, but, so it's not an improvement, it's already not a great situation. What I'm thinking is in terms of, it's not a big traffic generator as proposed this way.
Right.
What I was meaning is that if you turn that into, say, right out, right in, right out only, and every single car has to be coming out and only going right, how does that change that? Because now that means any accounting you did that some of those cars are bound to be going left goes away. And then in the reverse, when you're coming northbound on 38, if you were making it right in only, that means no one is taking a left going northbound. Somehow they need to get coming in the opposite direction and turn and go in. I don't know what that means in terms of traffic or traffic problems. If every single car that possibly could be coming up 38 has to find a way to somehow U-turn themselves around and come back down southbound in order to enter this place. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that feels like something must change if you do that.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I think part of the way to think about it is the applicant can certainly undertake that analysis as kind of a test of what would happen. Unlike if this was a commercial development, these are people that live there. So if you live there and you can't make those specific movements, you generally are going to plan your travel pattern to that this is the way you're supposed to come in. So you were talking about, different routes that people might take. That's more than likely what they would do. They would know, here's how I need to approach the site. Here's how I would leave because I live there. So I'm going to be familiar with what those restrictions are. If it was a commercial establishment, all bets are off there. They're going to start to do those things that you talked about, making U-turns in the opposite lanes, things like that. But these are people who live there. You're not going to want to be doing that all the time. So you're just going to plan your travel routes a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, just because I'm trying to think it out, if you're coming northbound, if that's what you're forced to do, you're going old Main Street, and you're coming up next to the waffle place, and you're going to wait your turn to try to come out and go left. So I don't know what that does to that road or that, you know what I mean? And now those people are going to be coming across that 2 lanes into the 2 lanes trying to go left, because I've tried to do it coming out of the Waffle House, and not a lot of fun on Saturday, for example.
Right.
So anyways, that's my stuff for that. Anyway, so floor is yours now, gentlemen.
All right. Well, Mr. Chairman, I think as presented, the main focus at this point from our perspective is what's the issue, or what are we going to do with Aston Street? Our whole, this has been going on for many months, and the bottom line, directive has been don't add any traffic into Astor Street, to or from the site. So that's how we've proceeded. And I think you have to give a lot of emphasis to the reference by your engineer, acknowledging or indicating that, this is not a high-traffic generating site. The potential uses under the zoning bylaw for this site, number of potential uses that would be extremely higher use that you could ask Mr. Dirks in terms of, look at the chart and what type of potential use is allowed at that site under your zoning bylaw. And it'd be extreme, exponential change of traffic coming in and to that site. I mean, you can look at examples of this type of development very close, if not in town, very close to town. I live on Fisk Street, within quarter mile, the old St. Francis Seminary, the old Port Clayers, and the Christian Formation Center. Christian Formation Center now has the Melmark, which, I've never been interrupted coming in and out of my driveway. Because, I was talking to Matt earlier today, and I said, I might have a 2-second wait sometimes for the Melmark cars. And, it's like, you sit there and say, my God, they're doing God's work, bringing kids to an institution that does, treats autistic kids, fine. But if you look at the Port Clare's site, it's one of those, Avalon-type buildings. It's got to have, 200 units in it, 100 units. On the other side, St. Francis, they must have 10 buildings. That's the equivalent of each of, that we're now going to have 3 buildings, plus freestanding condominiums. Must be 500 units there. You go by there, it goes to the point of Mr. Dirks, this doesn't generate significant traffic, as per the analysis, as agreed upon in the peer review. So that, I think, has to be a very important, point to take in terms of the layout of the site. And, again, if it's the intent of the board to want us to redevelop utilizing Astor Street, then we need to know that. That's a significant change, and, basically, we need direction. Like I say, that's a pretty significant, but you have to take it into account to what we're proposing there, as opposed to what could be proposed and what the actual impact of the proposed use would be relative to introduction of traffic to the area. Relative to the driveway permit, I'll ask Mr. Hammond to address this further, but, there was a access permit issued without a site plan approval, and that has, we've stated that's expired. That has expired. There's a application that has gone through the process, and I'll ask, Mr. Hammond to go a little bit further into this, specific to this proposed development, the 90 units, residential, 55 and older use. So that is, that is what's pending, and, I'll turn it over to Matt, but our number one goal tonight is to find out, for purposes of moving forward and further responding, for giving further information to Mr. Dirks in terms of, how are we addressing this access? Because the way we're looking at it, we're talking anything coming from the Lowell direction, everyone would have to go up Astor Street. Anyone intending to go down towards Lowell would have to leave through Astor Street. So you'd have all traffic going in, coming from the south going north would have to go through Astor Street, and everyone going from the site to go north would have to go out onto Astor Street and then go out and then turn left. From our perspective, we thought that the plan as we were proceeding, which seemed to be in alignment with the feedback from the neighbors and the board, in understanding, the concerns that you're throwing out, and Kim will certainly be able to address, and I think it would be good, but we need to know what is the intent. But I'll ask Mr. Hammond to address some of the other items.
Yeah, so I know, Mr. Dirk, you weren't at the prior meetings that we had with the board. To give you a little update, we had a permit, it was expired. We thought that it would be fairly easy to go and have that permit reinstated by Mass Highway, Mass DOT. While we were going through that process, which was also requested by the board for us to go back to Mass DOT and confirm, do we actually have a permit that could be issued for the proposed curb cut? So we went back to Mass DOT. We had a couple Zoom calls with all the agents within Mass DOT. And they provided a list of additional items that they were looking for to be added to the plan and to be looked at. It did come up to look at the potential of having a curb cut at Astle Street, but it was generally conveyed that having one access off of Main Street would be preferred because of the feedback we were getting from the planning board and the abutters. We have that list of items, which I can provide to you and the board, which was on October 8th.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Hammer, why haven't we gotten this sooner? Right, it's almost 2 months ago. More than 2 months ago. Just for us to review this, you know what I'm saying? But go ahead. I'll let you finish.
There's a lot of things that we've been going through with Mass DOT that would be a significant amount of correspondence, I guess, if you wanted to see every email.
You're saying it would have been better for us to have this in our possession so we can review it, rather than you passing it out tonight for us to review? I can't read this now.
Discussion with the
I'm just trying to,
peer
Okay,
analysis.
I'm
yep.
just trying to outline where we're at with Mass Highway. Additionally, and I can have Kim Hazavardian answer to this, there was additional analysis that was requested at the intersection of Old Main and Main, as well as a full study analysis of the intersection of Astle and Main. So we did that as well. On November 4th, there was an email that came through.
Thank you.
From Mass DOT, which essentially says, after review, all the comments have been addressed except for the first one, and that was to have BLJB Holdings LLC be updated in the SHAPS, what they call the SHAPS online account, as the applicant. Okay? So that was our only remaining item to do for Mass DOT regarding this application.
That was to get you to 25%,
I'm just,
right?
I'm going to hand out another email.
Thanks.
This email is to identify that we did in fact provide the applicant information into the SHAPS account for Mass Highway to satisfy all of their comments that they've had asked us to do. You know, Mr. Dirk and I will also go through a lot of Mass Highway permits, so it's not always a straightforward process regarding the percent of review. I think it can be, and Mr. Dirk can correct me, but if you get to this stage with Mass DOT, we are no longer doing anything for Mass DOT for them to move forward to issue the permit. Okay? So there's nothing we're doing. They're not waiting for anything from us. The last email that was provided by Mass DOT says the permit has been advanced to the 25% review stage. Right now, we are not doing anything in regard to providing any other documents to Mass DOT. When they will issue the permit is completely up to them, but that's the stage that we're at with Mass DOT.
So maybe for clarification, so just for, because I think the last time you said there was the old permit was issued without a decision from us. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So just for, just for purposes of this, hypothetically, if we issued a decision on this and that decision included conditions,
Yeah.
and those conditions needed DOT's approval, you'd have to go back to them with our decision, and they'd have to reopen up the permit, right? And reissue it?
Sure.
Including those if they were okay with them?
Correct.
Okay, so you could have a permit, but it wouldn't necessarily be a done deal if we place other conditions after the fact. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
All right. Does that sort of fit what you were discussing?
It is, but I'd probably take it one step further. Does DOT know that the town has not issued an approval for a project at this location?
Yes, they do. So let's be clear about this. The entrance is the project, right? And we don't have a project unless we have an entrance that can be approved by Mass DOT because they have jurisdiction over the street access curb cut. That's why we went down this road with Mass DOT to ensure that that entrance would be approved by Mass DOT. And that's where we're at right now. We're confident that Mass DOT is going to fully approve the curb cut as we have it proposed.
But back to my question, though, like, just for an example, if we did make this a write-out only and a write-in only, that isn't what they're approving, and if you were going to do that, you'd have to go back to them, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's sort of different ways of saying the same thing, I think, but if I'm wrong.
Yeah, MassDOT, just through the chair, MassDOT does not, they will issue a driveway permit to a piece of property, because if they don't issue the permit, the Commonwealth has physically taken the property because they don't grant you access. But they will issue a permit for a specific project at a specific location that has been approved. So it's a little bit of semantics, but to suggest that they would issue a driveway permit for a project that could be anything is not what they do. So I'm presuming you've submitted a traffic study, you've submitted a site plan for this project, and MassDOT is fully aware that this board has not approved a project at this location and that the driveway may change. So they're issuing a permit even though the driveway design might change based on conditions from the board, and that's not typical of what they do. So I'm a little bit surprised, and I work in this district all the time, that they issued a permit without a project approval, and they require that the decision be issued to them.
So when I had spoken, I said that I don't know if they're going to issue the permit in final until we're done with these proceedings. That's very likely. Okay? They may decide to issue it. I don't have control over what they will issue. All I am saying is that all the information that we provided over a 3-month period see, Mass DOT requires a separate set of plans specific to that curb cut access, which we went through that exercise. We went and did additional traffic studies pursuant to what they were asking for, and all the list of the items in the email that I provided to you. The email that came back from them, when it says, after review, all comments have been addressed related to this project except for the applicant name have been provided. All the items have been addressed. That, in my mind, is essentially an approval of the project from Mass DOT. And that's what we were tasked to do from the board at the initial set of the proceedings for the planning board, to make sure that Mass Highway is okay with the curb cut. Because if Mass Highway is not okay with the curb cut, we got to redesign the project.
So I think if I understand it correctly from both of you, and maybe it is a semantic issue in that there is no permit yet. That's correct, right? They haven't actually issued a permit yet, but they've given you the indication of what you've given them so far would result in a permit, barring any changes that might come from a decision that we make. Does that sound about right? If we just said, go, right now, you're set, you'd go back to them, they'd give you a permit, right?
That's correct.
If we give you some conditions, you're going to have to bring it back to them, and the thing that you're done with right now, you're not done with anymore, because you're about to give them new information, in which case they're going to have to look at it and then decide if they're going to continue on the path they were on, which is issue the permit, or ask any questions, get any information they might need from you. Does that sound right? Because you don't right now have a permit in hand, correct? They haven't actually issued one.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that clears up, I think, what, that our peer review was asking, that they wouldn't issue a permit. They haven't actually issued a permit. You just are in line to get one based on the information they have so far, and they don't currently need anything new from you.
Okay.
And you probably will get one if nothing else happened.
That's correct. It's very common that on a project that has Mass DOT jurisdiction, that you would consult with Mass DOT prior to.
Right, which we asked you to do. We wanted to know what Mass DOT was saying, but I'm just, for everybody's sort of understanding, you don't right now have a permit yet. You just have every information they asked for, you've given them. They're good with you right now.
Right.
The only thing that might cause them to ask new questions would be us to put conditions on that Mass DOT would have to sign off on. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
That sound right to you as well? Mr. Duffy, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this email from October 8th that you just gave us, Mr. Hammer, so that has 13 items on it that DOT was looking for from you. Are those all submitted to DOT, all 13 of those items?
As I said.
One of them is, please provide a copy of all local approvals. So you've submitted that to the DOT?
Yes, we did. We sent to them the peer review letter to them. Everything on that list, we provided to them to the point where they said all of those items have been addressed.
What about all of the other items that they're talking about here, about trench drains and that type of thing?
We did all of that, yes.
Well, it probably would have been helpful if we knew that before this minute, so that we could get a chance to review those things. And I guess because, so somebody sent an email out that says, hey, you're all good, and now you're at a point where you're at 25% of the permit, but it doesn't really show us that you have provided them with this list of 13 that you just gave me. Is there any way that we can get some confirmation from DOT on that?
Absolutely.
And here's just another, and I'm just going to throw this.
Just only because I don't want us to get confused, but if you're going in order though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the November 4th email is the one saying from DOT,
Yeah.
they've got everything. That's after the October 4th one when they gave a list.
I
And then they
realize
left one item open, which they've now covered. So I'm not saying, like, no one's told us that these are all done, but they haven't asked in those subsequent letters or emails for any of that information again. So we may or may not be happy with whatever they may have sent in. That's a separate issue, and whether it meets what the town still might need are two different things, but I think they are covering that DOT thinks they've got what they need.
Based on that one email, that they have
Well, on
provided
3.
all of this backup material.
Mr. Duffy, I can assure you that all of the items that Mass DOT requested from us was provided to them, and they can review those items however they want, okay? If you're implying that that wasn't done,
No, I'm just saying that.
you can call Mass DOT.
It might not have been done. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
it was done, Mr. Duffy. I'm just saying to you, okay? Everything was done. Mass DOT is a very, they have 6 peer review agents that conduct a very thorough review. I think Mr. Dirk can contest to that. And that Mr. Dirk can call Mass DOT tomorrow morning, reference the permit number, and ask questions direct if he would like.
Okay.
So we both talked to the same people for the same
So
permits.
maybe just to help us out on our own side, Mr. Dirk, based on you looking at the 3 emails, would you concur that it would seem that the issues have been addressed, or they wouldn't have issued the most recent email saying there are no current outstanding issues?
Based on what I see in terms of the email chain, yes. The only thing that concerns me, as I said, is that the local approvals.
Right.
And so
Then we'll get to that one.
Yeah.
But other than that
Correct.
one of the
Correct.
list,
that's what it would appear, yes.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, just to put this also a little bit in perspective, we're dealing with a situation where there's 2 permit granting authorities with concurrent jurisdiction. So, we're going through Mass Highway, DOT. We're not then submitting what Mass DOT is requesting and approving and reviewing through their peer review and saying, oh, planning board, now you approve this as well, because it's not your jurisdiction, not saying that, that's just reality. We've got.
That's what I was trying to get at a second ago.
Two
Yeah.
concurrent jurisdictions that we're dealing
Yes,
with.
there may be things on here that both sides need, but it's
Yeah,
not.
but if
yeah.
you need it, then, we supply it to you, directly to you for your jurisdictional overview. But, as Mr. Dirks, I would ask, in terms of Mass Highway, with their jurisdictional review and the request for information, we supply it to Mass Highway for their review and analysis, respective to their jurisdiction and their decision-making process. So, we've got, but that's not unusual either.
Understood.
This happens.
Yep.
So,
All right, so then I think at this point, it would probably make some sense if we have your traffic engineer address the rest of our peer reviewers' issues or comments, correct? Because that takes care of the Mass DOT part, or the discussion about it.
Well, yeah.
I know you still have the big issue standing out there.
The
We'll get
number-
to that one, but that's a different thing. There's a few other things, like
Sure.
some, information, clarifications,
There are some-
new study area, those kind of things. I think we can get those addressed now and get back to the big one.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
Everybody's okay with that? So, yeah.
Should I do it up there or over there?
It's completely up to you. If you want to trade seats for a moment, that would be
Sure.
fine.
Thank you. Good evening, I'm Kim Hazavardian, traffic engineer with TEP LLC. We provided the traffic impact study for this project. And let's see, I'm not going to do it in comment order unless you would like, just make some general comments. I'm going to start by referring the readers to traffic impact study table, figure 5, the site trips, and these volumes will give everyone an idea of what the numerical impacts of the project would be in terms of trips spread across the network. During the morning peak hour, 5 trips turn left out of the site toward 495, and 7 trips turn right out of the site, and 3 trips turn left into the site, and 3 trips turn right into the site from 495 direction. In the afternoon peak hour, it's 4 trips to the left, 6 trips to the right, moving out of the site, and coming into the site, 7 trips turning left in and 6 trips turning right in. So those numbers are all single-digit numbers, and they were straight out of the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. And those are small numbers, and no matter what is going on the roadway network, when you run the computer models, it's going to show a small impact on delays, queues, level of service, a very small impact. Now, there are some guideline thresholds on what you do in terms of traffic impact analysis. One guideline is 100 vehicle trips that I see around a lot. There's a newer guideline, 50 vehicle trips. And usually, if you're generating less than one or other of those numbers, you would do a traffic assessment memorandum. That doesn't mean a town or the state can't ask for a full study. They can if you're less than those numbers, but the general guidance is a memorandum quite often will suffice. In this case, the state asked us for a full impact study, and we analyzed the six-flagged intersection, including Astle Street, the old Main Street intersection with Main Street, and the site driveway. When we finished our analysis, we ended up with, and this is in Table 9 of the impact study, very small increases in overall intersection delay due to the project. And I'm sure once I refine numbers, look at the comments in detail, that's not going to change. Now, the other intersection that's been discussed, the Walmart driveway, Cumberland Farms driveway, if I were to run the numbers, it's going to show very small impacts there as well. The increases are going to be less than 1% due to the project. And I can certainly run the numbers, but it's going to show very small impacts. And as far as the interplay of these signals along the corridor, the volumes this site is generating are so small that it's not going to have an effect that's going to show up in the analysis. And that's the main purpose of an impact study. It's not so much to point out existing conditions as to point out what the difference is between future no-build conditions without the project but with background traffic growth and future build conditions with an eye toward seeing whether mitigation is necessary to absorb the project's impacts. And in this case, I can firmly say that the project's numbers are so small that no matter, in terms of trip generation, no matter how much analysis we generate, it's not going to show the need for mitigation. A couple of other comments. On background traffic growth, there was a question from Mr. Dirk on whether we had checked with the town on specific projects, and I did call the town, and we did check, and the 1.36% growth rate we did compounded out over 7 years would handle the traffic growth in the area, and the background projects that we talked about were not significant in terms of adding traffic to the area. The traffic counts that were done on June 25th, which was probably right after the public schools let out, when we looked at the traffic volumes that we counted in June, we compared with area traffic volumes, and we found that June overall is a busier than average month. And in a Massachusetts impact study, you adjust average month, so we could have adjusted down 9%, but we didn't. We kept the volumes as is. So yes, school was out, but we didn't down adjust the traffic volumes to get to average month. Okay, so we were a little bit conservative there. Let's see. On the traffic monitoring program, I believe the most useful thing to do would be to monitor crash history at the proposed driveway, see what happens, and if we need to make any signing or marking modifications or whatever, we can do that. As far as measuring the volumes out there, I don't think that's going to shed much useful light on the subject, because the trip generation of the project is small. The morning peak hour, we're generating 18 vehicle trips. In the afternoon peak hour, it's 23 vehicle trips. If that fluctuates 10%, it's less than a handful of trips. I think the most useful thing would be to look at real world, how does the traffic actually work, and is it working well? So I would recommend looking at the crashes, if any, and coming up with bricks and mortar to deal with that, rather than collecting more data. Now, if this were a larger project, a retail development, a warehouse like an Amazon warehouse, in that case, those projects are more likely to have operational effects, and looking at the volumes might be more important after the fact. But in this case, we're talking the increases that are small for the project. Let's see, I think I had one other overarching comment. As a traffic engineer, I really would like to see what the town's wishes are on whether we have the driveway out to Route 38 or we go with something to Astle. From the standpoint of what will work from a traffic operations point of view, the volumes are small. 18 trips in the morning, 23 trips in the afternoon during the peak hours. So it doesn't, all of the above would work for the project. One driver would work, two drivers would work, either one or the other or both. But I would really appreciate guidance on what the town would like on that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So what I'll do is, if you could just, based on his, his information tonight, just where you are on the things you discussed with us just now.
Absolutely.
Based on that.
So obviously, we need written responses to our comments, I think is importantly, and just to kind of very briefly go through each of the points. The reason, so the dynamic between the traffic signals, because they're coordinated, they're set for a specific time, so that if you go through the Walmart signal on a green light, you can get to a green light in the next signal. That, in order for that to work, the signals are set in terms of their parameters. So we need to know on the timing, what is the setting that this signal is fixed at as it relates to the Walmart signal, because they operate together. So if the settings, if they analyze this intersection as an isolated intersection, that it just works based on the demand of traffic going through the intersection, that's not how it works. The signals are set up so that traffic passes from Walmart to the Astle Street intersection and then out of the system. And it does the same thing in the other direction all the way down to the interchange. So looking at one intersection in a series of connected intersections in isolation doesn't tell you how that signal really operates. You have to understand how it works in relation to the other signals, so that's why we asked for it. It's not about the volume of traffic that the project's producing. It has to do with the direct relationship between the two signals, because there are fixed timing parameters. We need to know where the timing parameters at this intersection fixed so that they work in relation to the Walmart signal. So that's why we want to understand that. He can certainly undertake an analysis that says this is the fixed point and we held it and then analyzed it. Or he can analyze the two intersections and give us that information. So that's why we asked for that. As it relates to school traffic, it's not just volume, it's patterns. So left turn, right turn movements at intersections, even if the overall volume at an intersection is higher or lower, the traffic patterns can be much different, because when school traffic is going through an intersection, the traffic patterns are varied. So that's why it's significant, not just in terms of volume, but also in terms of the turning movements that are happening at the intersection. So that's why we want to understand what the difference is in that parameter. As it relates to the monitoring, it is true that it's a low traffic generator, but for that reason, if the board is comfortable, based on the fact that there's 7 left turners going into the site during one time period, based on the overall volume, then that's fine. But what you'd want to do is make sure that that's in fact taking place. So that's why the monitoring looks at safety, but also volume. Because if you approve a project based on 18 trips and it generates 30 trips, that's not the project you approved. That's not 7 vehicles making a left-hand turn. So that's why the monitoring is really, it works on a low volume project, but also on a larger volume project. But it's all about, you approved a project based on certain representations, you want to make sure that that's taking place. It's not an overly onerous thing for the applicant to undertake, so that's why we asked that to be undertaken by the applicant. So that's kind of the high-level response to that. We need written responses, because some of the items he went through, if he talked to the town and got background projects, that's fine, but that wasn't in the traffic study, so we just need to have, kind of dot the i's, cross the t's.
So, I mean, but in terms of, obviously I'll leave it to the other board members to have their feelings about it, but if you allow for what it sounds like what you've said and both what they've said, which is in terms of traffic generation for the peak hours, it's not a big generator.
Correct.
To drop out during those peak hours.
Correct.
So even if you allow for that, my next question, the thing that sort of concerns me in the real world, because as you pointed out, looking at what's going on in the real world matters. You can't all be computer generations, because every section isn't the same. You know what I mean? It's just, it kind of works into its, the model is the same, but it's not really that way. And my concern, one of my biggest concerns, I have others, but yeah, okay, so between peak hours when this is being done, yes, not a lot of cars in and out, fine. The biggest and number one thing in my head that's problematic here, and I don't know how it works, but I'm thinking it's a problem from 12:01 a.m. until 11:59 p.m., which is every single car that comes out of there that tries to take a left I'm trying to envision how that happens, because I've driven that road. It doesn't take very many cars before you're going to be queued up to where that driveway is. When that car comes down the driveway and wants to take a left, if there are cars in the way, it has to wait. The light turns green, those cars start moving. If you come out, now all the rest of those cars that should have been going through the green light cannot do that, while you now block 1.5 lanes, whatever it is exactly where it is, because I know it actually becomes 2 lanes again if you want to take that left to go into Pinatas, but somewhere in there, there's a lot going on. If you have to take that left, more than likely then, when you finally get out, you're blocking both lanes, or a lane, or whatever cars could get by, cannot get by, while you're waiting now for the other cars that just got a green light to let you take that left.
Right.
So that's real. That's a concern I have in real life, that I don't know whether or not there's a computer generation that can explain to me what happens when that happens, because there may only be 3 cars wanting to take that left at peak hours, but there's 90 units here. I don't know when these people are coming in and out, but every single one of them that's going to take that left is going to have to do what I just described. And whatever's going on at that time of day is going to be impacted by taking that left, because that is a very difficult maneuver to manage. To get out of that driveway, get the cars coming southbound to stop and let you out, or you nudge your way out there somehow, and once you're there, you're blocking every single one of those going back towards Walmart until some kind soul, or no cars, allows you to make that left. Now, I don't want to put my money on how many kind souls just came through that other light, trying to get to 495, Lowell, or wherever they're trying to go, or Walmart, that are going to let you take that left easily without accidents happening. That's one of my biggest concerns, is that if we do this thing, then we look around, we do the monitoring, and we find out that there's accidents. Not volume problems, accident problems, or there are traffic problems generated by this weird thing I just described, and how it actually happens in real life. And that's a real concern for me, and I'm not sure how it gets answered, because I can't believe, I'm not anywhere near as smart as a computer, but I just can't believe the computer has got that figured out, because there are people involved in that calculation that I just described. Annoyed people in some cases coming the other way, or people who just got the green light and gassed it heading towards 495 at 40 miles an hour, who now see the nose of a car coming out, and they decide to go a little bit to the right. Well, that's a whole lane now, and there's probably a car there. That all in my head is possible, and really possible, if that's how you have to come out of that place and take that left. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I think that's what he's highlighted for us. And I know the trip generation, I understand that the numbers are probably minuscule in terms of the bigger picture. I get that. My real concern here is these real-life maneuvers that have to be made. And in some cases, and I'm certainly close enough in age to one of these numbers, but we're talking about 55 plus who are going to be doing this. Now, nothing against any driver from any age group. However, there are concerns possibly for some older drivers trying to make what I just described as a maneuver. So there's the plus of it being a 55 plus residence, but there may be possibly some negatives of folks driving at an advanced age trying to make all that happen that I just described. And that's just one of them. I'm just using that because that's the worst one as far as I'm concerned. That's the worst case scenario, is what I just described. And how does that work? And that's my concern. That's the biggest one to me. There's other stuff, but that's a big one to me. And I don't know how to answer that question in advance of all this happening. So, like I said, I want to keep jacking this up with these things, but I suspect that everybody else up here would have asked the same question if it was during the round robin. So I'm just trying to get some of this stuff out of the way so we're not asking it 5 times. But, everybody up here, I'm guessing, and everybody out there, because I didn't hear a single person in here commenting anything else on our agenda, so my guess is they're all here for this, that these are some of their concerns. And if we open this up to using Astle Street, which is the next discussion I'm going to have, what we're going to do about that recommendation, I just don't know what that does to all this. So there's a lot of pieces here that are moving for us, that in a real world have to be answered, and at least for me, and, I suspect the rest of the board members. But just to put the fine point on you guys' back and forth, the information he's asking for can be provided to the peer reviewer, is that correct?
It can be, but to make it feasible, we'd want to know what the town's preferred access arrangement is.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We can
back
vote
up
on
one
that right
step.
now, Mr. Chairman, if you want.
Well, just one second, to back up one step, though. I'm saying the other information, regardless of whether the Astor Street changes, in its current state, there was information he was asking for regardless. The Walmart intersection, all that stuff, that can be provided, correct?
I believe it would not shed new information that would be of benefit to the board or anybody else, but it could be provided, yes.
So let me back up one step. If he's asking for it, and we're going to say we'd like to have what he's asking for provided, you can do that. Is that right?
Of course.
Okay, all right. So then we're going to move on, I think, to the big one, which is a discussion now on the recommendation regarding Astor Street. Everybody's good with that? That makes sense? All right, so we don't need any more info about that. We know where you guys are. You're asking for information. We know where our peer reviewer is in terms of recommendation and all that. So we're moving on to a discussion about that. So I will start with Mr. Fratelli.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I am all in favor of not allowing access out of the site onto Astor Street. I thought that was an agreed-upon decision. I know Mr. Dirk just brought that up tonight, but I thought all along that was our agreement with the residents in mind as far as not letting anybody go out onto Astor Street. So with that being said, I'm not in favor of opening up Astor Street for any exit from the site we're talking about. So.
Okay. Mr. Fuchsia.
I am not in favor for Astor Street as well.
Mr. Champa?
Same.
Mr. Duffy?
I'm not sold on not having an access to Astor Street. I just think that the Main Street only is probably not very realistic, and it doesn't allow for anybody to make a left turn there. I understand, you could be queued up in the parking lot, and you might not even be able to get out onto Astor Street to make that left-hand turn. So at this stage of the game, I'm kind of on the fence about that. That would be my honest answer on that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. So this is what I'd say. I don't disagree with the majority of the board up here that I still don't see how the Astor Street being an active entrance and exit is a benefit in the big picture. Now, I understand what our traffic, peer reviewers said in terms of it might make a difference for some things and some of these concerns, so I can't dismiss it because I don't think we'd be doing our job if I said it like that, and that's not what I mean. I think we need to consider everything, and I think that's what the board was just doing, generically. Mr. Duffy's more open to the idea than maybe I am, but I'm not saying I couldn't be convinced if you guys want to go ahead and present something that shows us that Astor Street works and alleviates all these other things, then I think I have to consider it. My problem is, what I don't want to do is, I don't want to give you the impression is that if you design this with Astor Street being used actively, that I'm on board and I'm done. And that's my fear. You guys obviously have a budget, you got someone owns this property, they're looking at the project. I'm not trying to foist more costs, time, whatnot on you by saying this. The peer review has given a recommendation, and you guys can measure it how you want. You've gotten an initial feedback, I think, on the view towards the Astor Street. But obviously, you guys are the petitioners, you guys are the ones with the project. If you feel comfortable with what you have, and that's going to move the project forward to approval, or whatever, then that's fine. If you are not feeling that, and you have other suggestions, whatever they are, whether it's the Astor Street or, helicopter landings, I'm not telling you what you can and can't do or present. Obviously, you can present anything you like, and we'll consider it. So I guess that's where I am, because I've done the same thing as everybody else. From the beginning of this, I don't see how Astor Street makes sense. And I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm not a petitioner. I'm up here, and in my head, I don't see how it works. That doesn't mean that there isn't an argument that could be made that might change people's minds. I don't know. So far, in everybody's head, it doesn't sound like it would work. And what you guys do with that information next, I think is up to you. This isn't one of those situations where I feel like the board is able to say to you, make this change that will solve our problem, because I don't know that, and I'm not hearing that. So I don't want to give you guys marching orders that say, do X and we're good. And that's where I'm trying to be as clear as possible on that, because I don't know how else to give you guys direction, or the board give you direction, because I didn't hear from the board, do X and we're fine. So I don't know beyond that what to tell you, in terms of your considerations on the Astor Street portion. You got 3 fairly definitive, it doesn't really make sense to them. You got one who would consider it, and like I said, I'm open to seeing something, but I am not going to tell you, I'm on board if you just do this. So other than that, I don't know what other kind of direction I can give you, or you could try to ask more specifically something, I don't know, and we can try to do that. But other than that, I think that's as much as I think we can give you on that question.
Mr. Chairman, I recall we had a similar situation at Serena Way where it wasn't necessarily traffic per se, but the owner of a particular property wanted to do something with the driveway and the residents were not in favor of it. And it took some coddling and some finagling and eventually some pushing, but the property and the residents were able to come to an agreement that the project worked. They were a little begrudging about it, if I recall, as far as like, yes, we agreed to it. We don't like it, but we agreed to everything. I would say if I saw something like that between this applicant and the residents of Astor Street, who I'm sure are easy to get in touch with, they're all on the abutters list. If it works for the residents of Astor Street and Pike Street and the people that have to live with this intersection every day and whose safety is paramount in terms of making sure that their personal safety is not, lessened in any way, then that's who I would listen to, is that they come in and say, yes, this works for us.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think the residents spoke. They've spoken to us a lot in the past number of months, saying that they don't want any more cars on Astor Street. I travel Astor Street, I travel Pike Street, Main Street all the time. And I tell you, it's a nightmare coming off of Astor Street to get onto Main Street. I don't think these guys are going to change their mind, because they know it. They travel it all the time. And I think we as a board have listened to them in the past. I don't think we should be changing our mind at all. We decided on not having Astor Street as an access into this property and out of the property, and we should just be looking at Main Street, give these guys the direction that we're just going to use Main Street and move on. In my opinion, I'm one board member, so that's how I voted.
And Mr. Failure, I'm probably more in your camp than not. I guess what I was trying to say was more in terms of, I'm not telling the applicant what they can and can't do, or what they can and can't present. That is completely up to the applicant, and whatever is presented to us, we will consider. However, obviously, you've received some feedback that at least for 3 members for sure, you're not hearing how it would make sense to them now. So unless something were done to change their minds, and like Mr. Ciampa gave an example, that somehow something was presented that got the residents on board, that would be a change, obviously, in their position. So those are all possibilities, but like I said, that's why I don't want to give direction of do A, we're good. But more that we're not precluding the petitioner from doing anything they wish to do and then bring something back. I mean, use an example. I mean, we did the same thing. We've had a project or a petition going on for, I don't know how long at this point, and they've kind of gone back to the drawing board. And we're like, you want to change the whole thing and bring it back? Then change the whole thing and bring it back and we'll look at it. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying, obviously, we're going to consider whatever's put in front of us. But in some cases, we're able to give better direction. I don't think we have better direction to give you right now, because no one up here can envision a design that will satisfy them yet. It doesn't mean you couldn't come up with one. I don't know. So I don't know how, that's the only way I can think to say it to you guys, is that you guys can do obviously, as the petition is as you please. But I don't think there's any more that the board can provide at this point in terms of recommendation for solving some of our concerns with a different design, and that's sort of the problem that I see, is that I'm not sure, that alleviates, it doesn't just create its own set of issues, that's all. So I don't know. So I know that's probably not what you guys were hoping for in terms of solid direction, but I don't think I can offer much more on behalf of the board at this point for that.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Dunn?
Yeah, I'd like to direct a question at the applicant. Is there a circumstance, I mean, let's just face it, it's a difficult lot under any circumstances to build anything and to get access to and from. So is there a circumstance where DOT would weigh in on on the entrance, on the exit, and so on and so forth? Or is that totally up to the applicant and the board?
I mean, I'm not sure, but if you think based on our conversation tonight, they've weighed in on what they've got so far. I suppose they'd weigh in again if we put conditions in, or if they presented them with new information. But I don't know that there's any, I'm not trying to drag
Yeah, but
DOT into this with us.
Would DOT look at that and say, hey, there's no way you can have an intersection right there? Is there any chance that might?
They did weigh in. We located the driveway where we did to get it away from the merge in accordance with Mass DOT's comments. We put it away from the merge. So they looked at it and we did what they suggested.
Okay, so that's wonderful, but that doesn't address any people trying to take a left turn out of there or take a left turn in. So that solves one problem, but it doesn't solve the other problem. You have kind of like two issues there. There's the issue of just trying to pull out and take a right turn and hope somebody stops and lets you out. But there's also the situation where people might want to head up towards Home Depot. So what do they do in that instance?
We analyzed it as if it were a full movement driveway, lefts in, rights in, lefts out, rights out. Mass DOT was aware of that. Our analysis was all predicated on that, and it's all in there. We did the analysis that way.
Yeah, but I thought that I saw that we were narrowing the driveway to make it a right turn only. Was that from you guys, or?
That was my recommendation.
Okay, that was from Mr. Dirk, okay.
And this might be a question through you for Mr. Dirk, but that 24, Mr. Dirk mentioned widening the driveway to one lane in and narrowing the driveway to one lane in and one lane out. Now that recommendation could apply regardless of whether there was an access point in the rear at Astle, or regardless of whether lefts and rights left turns were prohibited. You could have a one-lane exit from a site that handles both left and right turns. And sometimes Mass DOT actually prefers having a single lane. It's up to them. So that's either the single lane driveway or a double lane driveway exit would work, whether you had lefts, rights, or whatever coming out of the site.
Well, in the interim, I like Mr. Champa's suggestion of potentially, and I know this may be very difficult, but to try to work something out with the neighborhood. And I mean, that's the easiest solution that you could have there, So that's all I have, really.
Now, if I might amend my answer, Mr. Hammer told me Mass DOT actually suggested going with the two lanes out.
Okay. I lost my own track. Who's left? Who didn't go yet? Mr. Champa, did you go on this one?
We all did.
Everybody's all set on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, lost my own track, so. All right,
I guess I would just make one further comment. I understand that this is a low-volume generating site, but in my history of construction safety, we've looked at two different things, right? You look at frequency and you look at severity. I don't think anyone is really concerned about the frequency of traffic coming in and out of the site as much as they are the severity of what's going to happen when something goes wrong. And I'm not sure how that gets alleviated, because I can definitely envision, I can come up with every single scenario we've had. I can immediately envision a similar scenario or a similar configuration somewhere else in the greater Lowell area where it works badly or it turns out badly. I can envision someone saying, okay, hey, look at this. I have cars coming out, wanting to take a left turn. I have cars to my right. I don't see anybody coming from my left. I'm going to zip out. But then when you get past those 2 lanes of cars, you see that other light turned green. Now you have cars coming at you, so you've stopped. Only now there are cars coming, or potentially delivery vehicles or something like that coming at 40+ miles an hour. And now you've stopped unexpectedly because they saw you come out as if you were going to go, but then you saw the oncoming traffic, you stopped, and now they're coming right at the driver's side door. So I think my concern definitely would be the severity of an accident when it occurs, more so than how often they're going to occur. And I also wanted to point out that we did recently have a pedestrian fatality about a half a mile or so from this area. There's a advocacy group in town called Safe Streets Tewksbury that is calling on Mass DOT and other authorities to work on improving all pedestrian access and traffic in this area. They brought up some really good points as far as what the issues are. And it just seems like, adding anything to the area until that work has been addressed by the authorities in place, is just going to add more fuel to that particular fire. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the audience. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns at this point, feel free to come up.
Hi, I'm Lisa Anderson. I live at 235 Astle Street.
Just pull the mic down, you got to stand right behind it. There you go.
Every time I've been here, for how many times we've been doing this, this really bothers me. When you're 55 or older, we do not die and stop driving. We also can have children that are in high school that are driving. That needs to be considered. I feel like every time this discussion comes up, it's like, well, they're over 55, they don't drive, there's not a lot of traffic. They do drive. And the people who are home, they're in and out all day. I live at the top of a dead end. If I can tell you how many cars my neighbors go past every single day, and they're over 55. So I just think it needs to be considered. Astle Street's a mess. I can drive down and there's like 4 cars there. Don't make the light. If you add more people there, we're never going to get off the road. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments, or concerns?
My name is Walter D. Grant. I live on Astle Street. And it seems to me that with all this debacle about traffic, that maybe this is too big a project for this particular plot of land. But I will say this, if they're going to bleed traffic out on Astle Street so people can go left and go down to the lights and go left again on 38 to get to 495, the traffic routinely backs up on Astle Street, way up toward the water tower. Sometimes when I leave my house, I have to wait through 3 light changes to get out at the bottom onto 38. People coming out of that place, they're not going to be able to get out, and people who are waiting in line for those light changes are going to get ticked off by people cutting into the line. That's not going to fly. They've got to come out on Route 38, and they've got to have proper traffic signals there. If we can't coordinate proper traffic signals to bleed out this traffic out onto Route 38, then the project is too big. Obviously, this is the wrong plot of land for it and the wrong place for it, okay? And in all due respect to the gentleman over there about Avalon and the St. Francis Seminary and River Road, right? That is not the massive meat grinder we have at Route 38 at the bottom of the hill. That's the gateway to our town. Who's going to set up business in our town trying to get through this, in and out, in and out? We live it every day trying to just get about town, all right? And it's just absolutely Without these things taken into consideration, especially without a traffic light coming out on Route 38, that's the responsibility of the developers, as far as I'm concerned. People want to develop this site, they want to pack it in with as much as they can get in there, they're responsible for the flow of traffic. It has to be approved by the town, and we live it every day. There are no better traffic experts than the people in this room. And I've had my say here, all right? One thing else I would like to add, if this goes through and the construction vehicles come up and down Astle Street, right? Is there money going to be put in escrow for the repaving of Astle Street when this project is done? Or is that going to be hung on the taxpayers of the town also, right? Along with the retrofitting of a traffic light, maybe years down the road, then we have to have approval from the state of Massachusetts and suffer through it. Who gets hung the bill for that? I know who will get stuck with it. We, the taxpayers of the town, right? And for a project that's this magnitude, the developers need to pay for this stuff, not we, the taxpayers of the town. We shouldn't have to suffer for it. Like the gentleman over here said, when the light goes off at Walmart, it's just like New England Dragway. People fly on the left-hand side and they can't wait to cut you in at the bottleneck. It's a nightmare. So anyhow, I've had my say, and I'll be back again. Want to thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good, good. You're welcome.
My name is Vivian Cucciaro. I live at 339, and we've been there since 1968, a long, long time. And everybody talks about the traffic and the commotion that comes from Walmart and the bottleneck and everything like that. But the main thing is Route 38 from Lowell, Shed Park, all the way down is loaded with every type of business, every type of, and it's a busy, busy area. So what has happened is Sprague Avenue, which is connected to Astle from Lowell to Tewksbury, has become the shortcut. It's the speedway. Everybody cuts through, and I've sat there and watched cars flying by from 3 o'clock on. I've never seen anything like it. It has gotten exponentially worse and worse, so I know what's going on. It's just getting worse. If we do a right-hand turn only out of the new project, they're simply going to loop around, do the hairpin turn. It's a literal hairpin turn, and then they're going to go bombing up the street to get to Lowell. We got a couple of speed bumps there, I get that. The main thing is, it's a lose-lose for our street. If they put an exit way and an entrance way on our street, same thing. I mean, I got to get home, they'll go that way. Or if we don't have that, they'll go, well, I got to get to the end of Astle from Sprague, and then I'll just loop around, at the light, and I'll go home. It's a lose-lose for our street, that's all I'm saying. And I think the residents are getting stressed out about it because we've already seen the changes. And like I said, I've been there since I was little, so I've seen, that's progress, I get that, but it's just, I don't think it's a feasible situation for our area. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Yes, it's 339. Astle. I live on Astle, so I'm like right near Lowell.
Just for the record.
Yeah, so I'm actually right across the street from Walter. So yeah, we've watched it. We get out of our driveways in the morning. There's nobody there, and then there's somebody like this, because we're just trying to get out of our driveway. So it's, I'm not saying it's all the Lowell people. I don't want to say it's the Lowell people cutting through, but it is a cut through. They fly up Astle and they get up to the top of Sprague, and then they go that way to Lowell. And everybody wants to avoid all that stuff on 38. So, let's not go through all those lights. Let's go down Sprague, flying, so they can beat those lights. It's a lot of traffic, and that's why we're concerned, and I think that's what most people are concerned about. I can't say everybody, but that's what I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments, or concerns? Just one second. Sir, were you waiting to speak?
Are you taking non-traffic related questions?
If it's related to this project, I am.
Yep.
So can we let that gentleman go, because he was waiting?
I'll wait.
You wait one more? All right, that's fine.
I'd like to give the microphone. Go right ahead.
Nope. No, I'd have to bring him up anyways. He'd have to come a little further just to get on the camera. So why don't you go ahead, and then we'll have him up next.
Thank you. Ralph Bliss, 249 Astle. I feel like my checklist has been addressed by a number of folks already in terms of the difficulty on Astle Street, which is a country road. For all intents and purposes, it is a paved country road. We have enough trouble with the traffic on Astle Street right now. I have the added benefit of living, my driveway is one of the hidden driveways that you see as you head toward Lowell. My family has been fortunate over the last 43 years to avoid getting killed, but the traffic and the problem is getting worse and worse. And we've had to jump out of the way more times than I care to count. I have a question for you, sir. And I apologize. Is it Mr. Burke or Mr. Dirk? Dirk. Thank you, Mr. Do you concur with the trip counts that were provided to you in the analysis by the applicant's traffic engineer?
So just so you understand how the process works, you're asking me?
No.
And that, no. You are. You're asking me.
Okay.
So that I can have Mr.
Do you
Dirk
know
answer.
if
No, you did it. It's fine. It's just, that's why he's looking at me and not answering. So you can go ahead.
I'm concerned about that, given the numbers that were presented 7 years ago in 2018, when there were 75 units and the traffic counts were higher. And yes, I understand we're now talking about 55 plus, but to Mrs. Anderson's point, I fall into that 55 category plus, and guess what? I'm retired, and I'm driving in and out of my driveway a lot during the day. Traffic counts are not going down, they're going up. I don't go to work in the morning and come back at the end of the day, it's all day long. Okay, so
I fall into the over 55 as well, and I go to work every day, so I know exactly what you're saying. So what I would say is that the trip counts that they've estimated for the project are based on industry accepted standards, with the most recent information was published in August of this year. However, because of the point you made, that's why I think the monitoring is important. Monitoring not just crashes, but the volume. Because again, to the point of saying that if they're saying it's going to generate 20 trips, let's just say as an example, then it better generate 20 trips, because if the board is comfortable with 20 trips, but they're not comfortable with 50 trips, they don't want 50 trips. That's not the project they do.
I say, with all due respect, when is this, Mr. Chairman,
through me to the
could we figure out
peer
when
reviewer. That's right.
that
You got it.
monitoring might take place? Because if it happens after this project is completed, it's too late.
Going to stay in front of the mic, though,
Yes.
because we got to pick it up for the
Gotcha.
viewers at home and for the
I got you. But the point-
transcript
But the
after.
point is quite simply that after the fact doesn't help.
Okay.
Okay?
So monitoring without any teeth is almost useless. It's a data point. So that's why I would never recommend monitoring without teeth. That requires something to get, it's all about bringing it back in line. So it needs to be monitored, but then to the extent that there's exceedances or something, you do corrective actions.
So what do you do? Close some of the apartments?
I'm sorry.
What do you do with, what are the teeth if the thing's already built?
So you would look at ways to try to reduce the volume of traffic, or you would look at.
I don't want to
ways-
hear that's Astle Street.
But at the end of the day, it really is not, the board and the town and the residents need to be protected.
Yes.
It goes back to the applicant of saying that you created an unmitigated impact, and therefore, if there's a permit issued or a site plan approval that's issued based on a certain volume of traffic and you're not complying with that volume of traffic, it's a violation of the issued permits for the project.
I appreciate that, and I understand exactly what you said. My only point is, after the permitting is done,
Yes.
after the buildings are built, after they're occupied, and we find out, oh, the numbers are higher, what's the realistic way to mitigate that? What's the realistic, where are the teeth? What happens?
If you're asking me, you're asking the same question I asked an hour and a half ago at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know what those are yet. We'd have to discuss them.
All right.
But as Mr. pointed out,
Okay.
we'd have to figure out what those would be if we get to that point.
Peace.
But there would need to be something put in place.
Just to follow up, now, given your explanation of the fact that the traffic light at the intersection of Main Street and Pike and Astle and Veranda are somehow in cahoots with what's going on with the traffic light coming out of Walmart, perhaps that explains why. And also, to Mrs. Anderson's point, you can't get more than 4 cars down that street, even if there are 20 in line. It's not a smart light with respect to Astle Street.
That's correct.
Yes.
It
is a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's purposely, the state never
Yes, it is
tries-
gating the traffic out of Astle Street. I
It is-
understand that.
It is to move traffic along Main Street. It's at the expense of the side street.
It certainly is. So let me pose a question. If and again, I think this is, 8 pounds in a 3-pound bag. This is way too much of a project for that piece of real estate. But if it's going to go forward, let me ask you a question. Is it possible that you can, in some way, shape, or form, convince the Department of Transportation that what really has to happen, and I think the other gentleman alluded to this too, you're going to have to put another light in there. Key it in, these brilliant lights that are moving traffic up and down Main Street ought to be able to take one more signal. Is there something that you can put on the end of the driveway that cues the other 2 or give it its own 3rd light? Control the traffic.
So the driveway is too close to the signal at Astle Street, so the state would, there's a couple of things. The first is there's certain spacing you have to have between the signals in order for it to operate correctly. It's too close. You need 500 feet between intersections. That's the minimum spacing to get them to work properly. The second thing is that there are criteria or warrants that have to be met to install a traffic signal, and those are federal criteria that the state has to accept as a minimum standard.
500 feet?
It's the warrants are based on volume of traffic produced by the project.
Okay.
And so the project will never produce enough traffic to meet the warrants, so the state can't approve a traffic signal, and you shouldn't be able to find an engineer that would design that traffic signal. It doesn't meet any accepted standards.
Okay.
So you really couldn't do it. And that really gets back to, I think I really want to say, I'm not advocating for an access off of Astle Street. What I am saying is if a project at this location with a driveway at this location needs to be in place, there's not a situation where I'm going to say that I'm comfortable with a left turn going into the site. So if you want to approve a project there, the question is, how do you safely do that?
I understand.
And so that's, when you look at our comments, it's really about that. It's about if you want to approve it with a full access driveway, this is what we're recommending. However, in all instances, and this goes back to, I think, what the applicant was saying, if I go to Mass DOT and I say the town does not want us to have access off of Astle Street, Mass DOT is going to say, fine. Again, back to, we're not going to landlock your property. We'll give you a driveway permit for full access because that's your only option. However, if you say to them that there's an alternative access, they will then view it and say, of course, we want left turns at the signal. It's all in how you pose the question as to the answer that you get. And so I'm trying to at least provide options to the board so that they can move forward with, to the extent they want to move forward with something here, they have some options.
Understood. I appreciate the efforts of the board to respect the wishes of the Astle Street residents. You are well aware of what our preferences are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'll just
if you give your name and your address.
Oh, yes, Richard Levaster, 25 Anthony Road. First question is, I just wanted to, I didn't hear very well, to Mr. Champer's question earlier on, that this would make that this would make the intersection worse. That's a correct statement? The traffic engineer stated...
I'm not sure what you mean by worse. I mean, we had the conversation that and it's pretty much agreed on between our peer reviewer and their traffic engineer, that it's not a major generator of additional volume, the project.
Okay.
So if that's what you mean, then I don't think anyone is saying that, because our peer review is saying that the volume is not a significant change in volume from what's there now. So I'm not sure if that's your question or not.
I'm trying to go play the reel back from an hour and a half ago.
If I may, the question that I had asked Mr. Dirk was if he knew of a situation where a 6-way intersection being turned into a 7-way intersection was ever an improvement.
Okay.
And his answer was
Is that the
no.
one you mean?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
So no, this would definitely not be an improvement.
Okay.
Okay. The other issue I wanted to go into, and I apologize, I'm getting into this late, is I believe the applicant is looking for a waiver from the Architectural Review Board with respect to sidewalks.
No, I believe that was brought up at the last meeting, but I think you guys have gotten away from that, correct?
Correct.
You're not looking for that any longer?
There'll be a design showing handicapped access to the.
Okay, so I don't believe that's an issue anymore.
Okay, and I'm just thinking, as a person who might possibly be able to live in these buildings, who knows? Well, who knows how old I am? You're able to walk. Most people can walk. At some point, you hurt your knee. You use a cane, use a walker. Given the grades and the slopes getting down to the bus stop, am I going to be zigging and zagging like a line at Disney World? You know what I mean?
I'll let you guys answer. I presume it would be a situation somewhat like that.
Yeah, it's going to have to be, I think Mr. Hammer had indicated that there would be areas where there would be ramps going down, but all within the, meet the criteria.
Without putting words in your mouths, the idea would be, yes, that would kind of happen, but it would be in compliance with the requirements.
It will allow access,
I
handicapped
think-
access from the site to the sidewalk.
Thank you. And you already talked about the bus stop, abutting the sidewalk, so that needs to be addressed. Again, I just think that this is, I don't live near Astor Street, but this is just too big for this area. At one of the previous meetings, it was brought up that you wanted to see an approximation of what the person who lives closest to the buildings would see. And I'm thinking, okay, you've shown it on a drawing. A drawing doesn't do anything. Stick a balloon up in the air next to this guy's house, and he's going to look up and see what's looking down on him. I think there needs to be more practical walkthroughs instead of just looking at drawings. You can't see it without being there. So I might suggest some of that with the residents, but as it is, I am wholly opposed to this. I just think it's the wrong project for this area. Thank you.
Anyone else with any questions, comments, or concerns? It's got to be short, though, because you had your turn.
Still Ralph Bliss, 249 Astle Street. The gentleman just reminded me, I believe we're still waiting for a rendering for that view coming out of Astle Street toward the east or south. That was requested by the board a number of times. I've not seen it. Have you?
Was that one of the ones we saw at the last one, or was it not?
It was not.
So we're still waiting on that
I
one?
photoshopped my own, which is why I had concerns, but we have not seen the actual rendering.
Okay.
So that's an
So
outstanding.
that's an outstanding
Thank
ask,
you.
I guess.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions, comments, or concerns? Going once, twice? I'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Vitale, you had something?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Along the lines of what Mr. Levasseur was talking about is the size of the property, the height of the building, and the effects it's going to have on the residents of Astle Street that live nearby that see this 5-story building that's going to be built on this site. So along those lines, I'm going to ask Mr. Hammer if you can answer a question. Why can't the building be lowered to ground level rather than being that high in the back? Why can't the entire property be leveled to the height of the, just above the sidewalk, so that you'll alleviate any of the handicap access in the slope of the driveway and everything else?
Well, we have to design around the grade of the lot. So we have to comply with all the regulations for the slope, the average grade plane of the buildings, from the beginning of the entrance all the way to the rear. If that answers
You
your
just couldn't level the whole lot, put up a retaining wall in the back and have the buildings not be as high as they are and intrude upon the residents that live there? Is that not out of the question?
That is out of the question. When you design on a property, you're working with the grades from all different sides of the project. So you have to account for all the 4 sides that are all different grades. There's a grade differential from front to back to side, and that's how the site ends up graded the way that it is.
Yeah, okay. I was just concerned that if you drop the whole thing down to the level, there's no slope going up. I mean, you work around the stormwater issues you have and grading issues.
You can't change the grade to Astle Street. That's the problem, right? So you have the grade at Astle Street, you have the grade at Main Street, and you have the grade from Main Street to the intersection of Astle Street.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much.
Anything else, Mr. Vitale?
All set.
Mr. Duffy, anything to add?
No, I have no questions right now. Thank you.
Mr. Fuchsia?
I don't have anything to add.
Mr. Champa?
All set for tonight, Mr. Chairman.
So, I mean, you know, the board's aware. I mean, obviously, the property's zoned the way it's zoned. We understand that a project like this is, you know, allowed in the area, but there's obviously more to it than just that we've got going on that we're trying to figure out. And we're still obviously working on that with you guys. So, you know, you asked a question earlier, and we gave you as much guidance as I think we could at this point. You know, I believe from discussing with Ms. Lauder, there's a lot of stuff that I think you guys still have that we don't even we haven't really even talked about with the town, like with the engineer and all that stuff that we haven't even gotten to with any of this, if there's any of that outstanding, because we've been sort of focused on this stuff. But what I would say is that at this point, because we have the peer reviewer here, we have your traffic engineer, if there's anything else on that we're looking for comment, clarifications between what he's looking for, what can be provided, what you guys are thinking, let's do that here, because obviously he's not here every time. So, you know, I want to make sure that we kind of crossed all the Ts and dot all the Is there as best we can, you know, since he is in attendance tonight. So if you have anything, you know, through me to the peer reviewer, then let's do that now. If not, then, you know, I guess we're looking to continue this next meeting and see where we are.
so one item that Mr. Housevardian said that he didn't feel it was necessary to do a traffic study at the intersection of Walmart in the gas station.
Okay. And if I understood it correctly, you think that's important and that we need that?
So I think at a minimum, we need to know that the traffic signal timing parameters at the intersection they analyzed are set and fixed based on the timing at the Walmart intersection, because that controls. This is the last signal in the system before it proceeds down to the job lot intersection, which is not a part of the system. So they can certainly submit the design plans that show, yes, this is the fixed point and we held the fixed point, because I don't have that right now. So that would be acceptable. That's really why we wanted the analysis, was because we could see the dynamic of how the two signals work. So they can provide that fixed point for us, so then we can say, yes, it's compliant.
Okay, so then I'll make it simpler, that since the traffic engineer is asking for at least what he just asked for, and I suspect that that's clear to your traffic engineer, even if it's not fully clear to me, what that all means, that's what he's asking for, and that can be provided because we're now asking for it.
Okay, I just want to add to this that Mass DOT did not require that.
Well, as Mr. Plunkett pointed out, we're two different entities, right?
Okay.
You do what you did with Mass DOT, and Mr. Plunkett pointed it out pretty clearly earlier, we're two different things, and since we're asking for it here, I mean, because we don't want to do the thing we did with the traffic study for 6 or 7 meetings or whatever it was, where we're trying to understand what we're looking for. So.
Isn't this one full? We can just get some.
Since we have a moment, Mr. Chairman,
It's not asking for a full.
Mr. Hazaverdian stated that despite what your comments were, that there would have been no measurable difference in the traffic study if it had been done at the times of year you had recommended.
I haven't gotten there yet. I'll get to those. This is just on this one. I just wanted to clarify this.
I was just going to ask
they
whether
asked.
he agreed with it or not.
I was going to move to the next one and say, is there anything else he's asking for that you don't want to do? So we could.
So, Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
So if the board would allow Mr. Hazavardian to talk directly to Mr. Dirk, I think that could help clarify the information.
I'll speak, I think, for the board here. If the two traffic engineers can get on the same page to where our traffic engineer, or our peer reviewer says to us, I'm satisfied. How that happens, I don't think we care, as long as that's the answer we get. Does that sound fair to you?
Absolutely.
All right, so and then to cap off Mr. Chiampa's question that he started to ask, of the other asks that the peer review has asked for, is there anything else that you are in question of whether or not you should or shouldn't do it?
No. So what I want to also be able to do is to provide some of the information that's previously been submitted and submit that directly to Mr. Dirk, namely swept path analysis that we've done many times.
Would you just make sure you CC Ms. Lauder that it's
yes.
happening, so that we have a record of the fact that went out the door somehow?
Yep.
Even if we're not the ones rerouting it? Is that fair? Okay. Yeah, so from our point of view, I would recommend and request any conversations you need to have with their traffic engineer, please have them on our behalf so that you can report back to us, and that is fine with us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's similar to what we do with other things like stormwater and stuff like that. We have an engineer, they have an engineer, they talk, we get a record of it that says our engineer is okay, common address, et cetera.
Correct.
So, Mr. Dirk, one question before you leave. I know you use the ITE system for trip generation, but how does that affect people who now are working from home that don't leave at a certain 7 to 9 a.m. timeframe or come in 3 to 6? They're working home, they're going out of the house anytime they want to. So, I mean, he's mentioned those figures, ITE generated figures, and you have as well, but to me, it's hogwash because people aren't working a regular 9 to 5 job anymore. Those hours are not set in stone, so the peak times on both morning and afternoon, I think, questionable in my eyes because of that fact. And maybe you can know an answer for me because you're our peer review.
So that's why I think it's important. The latest data was published in August of this year, and it was for that reason. So what they did with the new information is they purged pre-1990, got rid of all of that, and they've incorporated the new data as it relates to post-COVID. So that the new data set does include that. Land uses such as the one that the applicant used actually, compared to the previous version, the new version is showing it generates more traffic. But what your point really is, the peak hour numbers are probably about the same, but I think if you looked at outside of the peak hours, what you're going to see is those numbers, they used to drop off quite severely, they don't do that anymore. So it peaks and then it comes down a little bit, but then it stays a little bit more constant, and then you see peaks elsewhere in the day. So I think what you're hearing and seeing on the roadways is that it's more of a constant flow. There's a peak when school traffic and things are happening in the morning. It ebbs a little bit, but it's higher than it used to be, and it's because of that post-COVID type of situation where people are at home and they're traveling at different times of the day. So the numbers have caught up with that, but what you're not seeing is there's other peaks that are happening throughout the day, and it's not what we usually see, which is, I can leave after 10 o'clock and there's no traffic. That's not what happens anymore.
Right. So we talked about the time frame of the analysis in June, late June 25th, whatever it was. We'll be looking at a Saturday and a weekday to get a better view.
So one of the things in the monitoring is I suggested that they look at Saturday, and it was for that reason. It's a different traffic. It goes back to really the traffic pattern, which is much different than what we have on a weekday.
Okay.
And so that's why I had suggested if they're not going to look at a Saturday, that you get that data as a part of the monitoring program, just for that very reason, because this is, the north of this site is a retail corridor with Walmart, and so the dynamic of traffic patterns changes, just like as we're talking about with and without school. And the nice thing is that the town has a lot of traffic studies done on Main Street, and that studied this intersection. And so the applicant can actually get that information from the town and look at what the differences are. Same thing with, there is Saturday data that they can look at and provide some information to you.
Okay. All set. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nobody else, right?
No.
I just had one last question that hasn't quite been addressed yet. Several months ago, we had a similar situation with two traffic engineers having a conversation, and it came to light that traffic, and I don't know who the grader is, but that intersection has a grade of F. And that was prior to some recent improvements, and I've asked several times to kind of just out there if it's been regraded and whether or not it is an F or if it's improved. I'm not sure if that's something you could do, or if you could maybe just point us in the direction where we could find that data ourselves. But basically, that's something that I feel is important to know, because Mass DOT just went through an improvement process to lessen the impact in that intersection. And I'm curious to see if they improve the grade enough that it's no longer an F.
So the state should be, so as it relates to the system that they put in place, which basically takes you, I think, from Rogers Street all the way down to this intersection that they're studying, that's a brand-new system that was put in place it's an adaptive traffic signal system. It is monitoring and counting traffic. So actually the town, to the extent the state releases it, they can provide you with traffic counts, operations, all of that information. They weren't able to do that before. I think they have some performance analysis done of the way the system's operating now. So that information should be available from Mass DOT.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And that's it, everyone?
Good.
All right. So I think that's it from us, unless you guys have anything else.
Mr. Chairman, based upon the amount of, I think having the two traffic engineers having direct communication with each other will be greatly productive in terms of addressing issues. I think based upon the amount of homework, rather than the next meeting, what would be the first meeting in February be?
February 9th.
So how many meetings do we have in January?
Two.
Two. So we have the 12th and the 26th.
Yes.
So you want the 26th, Mr. Plunkett?
No, the February 9th.
Okay, February 9th. All right, so I'm just going out on a limb here and saying that 7's available?
Yeah.
All right, so take a motion to continue this until 7 PM on
February 9th.
February 9th, 2026.
So moved.
A motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. I appreciate you guys, I appreciate you coming in, having your traffic, that was far more productive than it would have been without everybody here, so I really do appreciate that. And
All right.
on behalf of the board, I extend our appreciation for that.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice holiday.
Thank you.
You guys as well.
You guys.
Thank you,
So,
appreciate
We
it.
bring Mr. Dork back on the 9th or not?
Yeah, we probably should do that, just to be, cross all the, All right, we're almost done.
Oh, yeah.
We're not quite there yet, though.
Adjourned, yes.
Nice try. All right. So we continued that.
Our meeting is still ongoing. If you're having
Folks?
conversations, please exit the room. Thank you.
We'll just, folks,
I just gave it to them.
I know. Say it over the microphone. All right. So that moves us on to correspondence, which we have one. Ms. Louder, anything on this, or does it just speak for itself? All right. So unless anybody has any questions on that, we'll move on to other business not known at the time of the posting of the agenda. Anybody have any?
All set, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that takes care of that. That moves us to a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I have a motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Everybody have a great holiday, and we will see you in the new year.
Yep.
Thank you.